had a point I was going to make. Now it's totally lost.
Mm-hmm.
General Oates is here, and Leslie North is here. They have a big event coming up on 9/11. It is going to be at 5 o'clock in the evening over at the Schreiner University, and they are here to discuss this event. How are you both doing this morning?
Doing well, thanks.
Leslie, how are you doing?
Doing great. I'm being real quiet for you, Lewis.
Don't be quiet, Leslie. We need more of you talking. This isn't necessarily a Together We Hill Country Veterans event. This is a little bit more, right?
It's really a coordination with the city and the county.
Yeah.
It's a community event.
Yeah. Tell us about the event.
So everybody over the age of 25 knows where they were at on 9/11. But we've kind of lost track of that event over the years. And so we're seeking to bring community awareness back to actually what happened on 9/11, losing almost 3,000 of our citizens in an attack. And then honoring the 20 years that followed, the veterans, 7,000 killed over the next 20 years, fighting an away game, making sure that the terrorists didn't come back to our country. And so we've got a little event. If you're looking to do a little physical training, Lewis, that's not in the morning, you
Yes.
can come over and walk a very short distance,
Yes.
1.7 miles, or stay right at the trailhead and eat and drink cold beer.
And walk to the bar and back to your seat.
Yeah.
That could be a good walk, though.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah. And along the way, we've got some posters that have faces of some of the soldiers and Marines, sailors, and airmen that we lost. This is an example of one from 2006 where we lost 919. But you'll see we've got Sergeant Amanda Pinson, lost in Iraq, and Sergeant First Class Chad Gonzalez, Green Beret, who was lost in Afghanistan. So it's a great picture of their faces. Bring a face to this sacrifice. There'll be 20 of those along the way.
That's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful way to honor them.
Three of which are from Kerrville.
Yeah, right.
You see their pictures as well.
Right. Dalton, you are you going to be there for that event?
Probably.
Yeah. What does that mean for you, too? I mean, you served.
I mean, everybody serves for different reasons. I went in to go overseas.
Yeah.
I got out because we weren't going overseas enough at that point.
Yeah.
Things were kind of dying down. Politics takes over. But yeah, no, it's.
Did you serve? Did you go in for 9/11? You were in that period, right? You were in for 13 years. Is that right?
Yeah, I went in after 9/11.
9/11. Yeah, but
so I went in 2003.
2003.
So I was in Operation Iraqi Freedom 3 in 2005.
We were in high school when I was a senior.
I was in the principal's office.
Were you?
Shocker.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Nobody would believe that, but yeah.
Where were you, General Oates?
I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, with the 101st Airborne.
Okay. Were you a general at the time? Or were you
I was a colonel.
A colonel at the time. Leslie, where were you?
I had been retired 10 years from the military already. I was working for a telemarketing company.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
So we all wanted to go back in immediately.
Yeah, of course.
Just a bunch of Rangers and just tired old military people who've been retired a while. Thought we should go back in right away.
Right away. Right. Did you guys go that day, or what happened for you guys that day? What was your position?
I was a chief of staff of the division at the time, and actually commanded 1st Brigade, and then moved to be the chief. Really, we were trying to get our own base secure, figure out what was going on, and then very rapidly transitioned to send a brigade to Afghanistan.
Right.
Started planning that immediately, and we're the first unit into Afghanistan. So
wow.
Iraq came, as you know, 2 years later.
Right.
But,
right.
One of the really interesting human interest stories about what happens after 9/11 is the number of people that actually join the military, and some of them as old as 40 years old,
Yeah.
a bunch of them in their 20s. Amanda Pinson, who I showed you, who was killed in 2006 in our division, was a really unique story. I mentioned her at Memorial Day 2 years ago, but she had the whole world in front of her. She was a tremendous student and had all kinds of opportunities, and decides to join the Army to come serve, and serve with distinction as an intelligence analyst. Lost her life over there. And we saw thousands of these kids. They're all kids to me, coming in right after 9/11 to serve their country. A tremendous view of patriotism. And part of what we're trying to do with this 9/11 commemorative walk is, it's one thing, at least in a political year, we can all get our arms around as an America.
Yeah.
It's the last time I remember when we all got together.
Yeah.
It was 9/11, and
Yeah.
it's been 23 years.
I always tell the story that I was trying to get a 3-year-old out the door. Allison was she turned 4 on the next day on September 12th, and I didn't have TV at the time. We just had nonstop videos. We just didn't have TV. So my mom calls me. I'm like, I'm trying to get out the door with this kid, and mom calls. Oh my God, you need to turn. So I go to work, and of course, in our fire department, I'll never forget this. Our newspaper office is across the street from the fire department, and because it's California, you have really advanced technical search and rescue teams, and they were all going. They went that day. There was about, I think, 4 of them that went that day. They were part of a strike team that went. They had all their stuff out, getting it ready to go, and then this truck comes up, picks them up, and then boom, they were out. Yeah. And then the other part too is that where I lived in California was the east-west corridor, for LAX and all the airport. Not a plane in the sky. Yeah. It was the quietest night I could ever possibly remember. So we all remember that day, and I don't think there's anything more stunning than when I went to New York for the first time. It wasn't necessarily the first thing I did, but it was maybe the second thing I did was to go to the 9/11 memorial, and it just you can't imagine the scale of it, So and also the fact that New York is huge, but also much smaller, much more intimate, and so you just know how that must have affected everybody in that lower side of the battery down there, but. Yeah, so you two were in high school, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a senior.
Yeah.
I was coming back. I took dual credit courses, and I actually had a government class that morning at the junior college. And then I was on my way back to class to make first period. And I was put on the radio, and I realized it was news on every radio because I was used to, whatever. And then finally, because I was like, wow, because you're just like, I'm just looking for, the top 40, and then I finally listened, and then it was like the sinking feeling, and it was in that weird feeling because it was before cell phone, if the cell phone, hardly anyone had a cell phone when I was in high school, and it was that sinking feeling where you realize this really big thing is happening, and not everybody knows yet, it's all sinking in. And so, I remember getting up and, when I got to the parking lot, my other friends, I said something and they didn't know. We went to the front desk and we were like, can you tell us what's happening? And they finally put on, that's when we had Channel 1. That was do you remember Channel 1?
Oh, yeah.
And then they put Channel 1 on all that, and then we all watched.
Yeah.
And it was the longest day. I remember it feeling like the longest day.
Yeah. I mean, especially in high school, too, people are still figuring themselves out. It created a lot of cultural controversy. I mean, we had a lot of different cultures in our high school in Houston,
right?
And it created a lot of division almost immediately. I mean, you saw it that day. Yeah. I mean, of course, so it was unique to experience that, and then as of course getting out, I couldn't get into the military fast enough, but and I think I went in 2003.
Yeah. It was an interesting time for sure. I mean, just the talk. I remember going to high school and talking to kids about it, and it was
scary. It was the first time that you felt. Yeah. It's like when you realize, I think, as you grow up, that you realize your parents are people.
Yeah.
They're human. Because you put them on this pedestal because they've been your caretakers for life. That was what it felt. It was that same when you realize how delicate everything was.
Well, it introduced vulnerability to the United States.
Yes, that's what it was.
And the consequences of that attack are significant. I mean, when you travel, everything you think about.
It changed everything.
The fact that somebody could come into our country and attack us, I think shocked all Americans.
Right. And the shack to do it in such a way that it was just, it was stunning. Very, very stunning.
Right. Because then it wasn't the towers, and it was the Pentagon. Yeah. And then it was the third plane.
The Pennsylvania plane. The White House plane.
Yeah, and thank God the Patriots on board took that thing down.
Yeah.
Back when we used to refer to Patriots as people that were serving their country.
Right. Yeah, those guys weren't messing around when they took that.
That made me tear up.
Yeah. United 93. Right. And you also think too about all the. I had a friend who flew regularly on the flight 11 because he was traveling a lot of times between Boston and Los Angeles, and he's like, I flew in that flight probably 25 times, and that was the one that went in first. Betty Ono, who was one of the flight attendants, was from Bakersfield. So I mean, you're right. It changed things immediately. I remember going to the airport. Just 2 or 3 weeks after that happened, and what a surreal sight, what a surreal. And even today, like when you go to New York, if you're in Times Square, it's just a very different feel. I mean, the militarization is very, very different. So,
but we're hoping to regenerate awareness of this thing by honoring the people that gave their lives. And I think it's a great opportunity for the community to come out. It's not a strenuous exercise in a short period of time. So.
Right. And for us diabetics out there, it's a good time to do it.
It's a good time to get some exercise in.
Reset. I mean, I think we should have some teams out there. Team city. The team.
You going to join the team?
I want to join the team. Yeah. We should have a team Dalton. You can be part of it as well. Team General Oates, team Together with Hill Country Veterans. We can have Sarah Kasarik over the Hill Country Veterans Center run one as well. Just kind of walking together and showing your support. Yeah, I have my U.S. flag I could take. Bring with me. Yeah, the one I got from Gunny's Warriors. That'd be fun to have.
You should have that.
Yeah. So, because a lot of people, it's funny. Like some people are like now they're like, you feel weird about flying the U.S. flag. I've never felt weird about it at all.
Yeah.
I love it. I love seeing that flag. So it's very, very important for me as well. All right, so the event is on 9/11. What day is 9/11 this year? Is it
every year? It's September 11th.
Well, I know.
It's a Wednesday. People ask me what day is Christmas.
Yeah.
It's Christmas. No,
Christmas.
September 11th is a Wednesday. Wednesday evening at 5:00. Come on out.
You're right after work.
Absolutely. Show your support.
That's amazing.
And Schreiner has been amazing.
Oh,
They're just wonderfully helpful. It's a nice walk if you've never walked the path all the way around the campus.
It's a great walk, actually.
It's actually a pretty good walk. It's not very far. Beer garden to beer garden.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's get there. Let's give people we can get there for.
Yeah.
Thanks,
guys.
Lewis.
Appreciate it
for being here as well.
Thank you for putting this together.
Thanks,
you brought me a hat, by the way. I want to say this too. I don't feel like I should wear this hat, but this is such a beautiful hat. And I was just thinking about this too. I didn't get a chance to ask you this question though. I'm going to ask you real quick. Did you? Because Band of Brothers came out in 2001.
Yeah. So did Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Both of them associated with the 101st.
Yeah.
Probably the most storied division in the United States.
Right.
They served the longest in Vietnam.
Yeah.
They most deployed during Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom.
Yeah.
Recognized around the world, especially in Europe, because they did the defense of Bastogne, jumped into Normandy, Market Garden. So you should wear that with pride.
Right,
it's also the American eagle, the symbol of our country.
Right.
So I think it's a tremendous thing to wear in support of the U.S. Army and the 101st Airborne Division.
What's really interesting, if you were a fan of the series Band of Brothers, which is a brilliantly done series from the book by Stephen Ambrose, if you watch the videos of the guys who played the characters and the absolute reverence they had for the veterans they played, and then they went back 20 years, and most of the guys had passed, but they went back to France. They went back and they talked about it, and there's a few of them that go around the country and talk about how important it was and how it changed their lives to be a part of that series.
If you wear that hat in Belgium, you can't buy your own beer. And
really.
The fact is, the people in Belgium, all the way down to the very youngest, they maintain all the cemeteries where U.S. soldiers are buried there. They absolutely understand their freedom was bought by that division in the U.S. military.
Do you know what I found out last year, by the way, just as an aside here, and we'll let you guys go here, but my great uncle is buried in Luxembourg, in the same cemetery that Patton's buried at, which is a point of contention for my grandmother. But we were going to do a wreath for him. He was killed at the end of the Battle of the Bulge, and there's not enough volunteers left to lay wreaths in some of those European cemeteries. So I don't know how we resolved that issue, but it was because there was we always do that beautiful wreath laying here that's so awesome at our national cemetery here, but in those big European ones, they don't have enough volunteers. The volunteers are too old, or we don't have that anymore. So something we've got to think about down the road here for us. So thank you, and thank you for putting up with my shenanigans this morning. I appreciate it very much. So again, get there September 11th. That's a Wednesday, folks. It's always September 11th, but it's a Wednesday this year. And 5 o'clock over at Schreiner University. Get there a little bit early, and it starts at Trailhead, right?
Right.
And goes around the
and ends at Trailhead.
And ends at Trailhead. So we'll be there.
Perfect.
We'll be there.
Thanks, Liz.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here. We'll see you guys again real soon.
Yes, sir.
Dalton Rice, I was telling you earlier that you got through. Well, first off, you got the lawn mowed. Congratulations.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
We did not do that.
Yes. Thank you for getting the lawn mowed.
But we'll take credit for it.
Yeah. You do have a quorum in the comments.
Yeah, you do technically have a quorum going on in the comments.
Isaac, come on over too. Okay, you sit right here. What? I don't know who you are.
Yesenia.
Yesenia. Come over, Yesenia. Oh, I love that name.
Yesenia is lovely.
Yeah, Isaac Dingler's here. He's not going to talk about birds, though. So he's going to talk about motorcycle